Well, it is a different kind of Woj bomb, if you're a sports fan, anyways. But we're not breaking any sports news today. Today's DTN sites, we're looking forward to a great conversation with Eric Wojciechowski, who serves as the Director of Emergency Response for Consumers Energy. Eric, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Renny. Appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Absolutely. So it's always fun to talk about weather and utilities. We know weather is, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, a gigantic factor, and certainly in emergency response, a major one for you. So would love to kind of start off learning a bit about your background, your career, how you ended up in the role you're in, and how you ended up with consumers.
Yeah, appreciate that. So I finished up my master's degree from Michigan State University during the Great Recession and had the opportunity to start at Consumers Energy as an intern. So hired in entry level in 2010. I've had a series of roles starting about 6 years ago in 2019. I got introduced to storm restoration for the first time as part of my role, and to be honest, I was hooked right from the beginning. And so, starting in 2019, my leadership journey has led me to be focused really on our electric distribution operations. First, the analytics and our reliability, and then later on, some of the tools that we leverage to manage outages. And so I had the opportunity 15 months ago to move into this new position for me, and it's been a great 15 months as the director of emergency response. Every day is something new and exciting. You never get bored.
Yeah, that's a really cool pathway to get into your role. I'm curious as you sort of entered kind of the storm aspect of everything, was there anything that surprised you about the way that weather impacted a utility?
Um, in this role and in my prior role, so over the last 2.5 years, I've had the fortune of supporting storm restoration as a manager. So my job was the digital products that we use or the digital tools that we use to manage outages and wire downs. My team had responsibility for that. So I was in the emergency operations center during every big storm, and then starting 15 months ago had the pleasure of being responsible for that operation. Two of the six biggest storms in the history of the company have been ice storms in the last 3 years. And I've had both the pleasure and I'll say a little bit of the pain of working those. Both of those had over 350,000 customers out of power and thousands of wire down historic icing level events. And so it's in hindsight, it's been great to have the challenge, but it also is not something you want to go through knowing so many people are without power, and we rely on that every single day. So it really has helped reinforce those two big catastrophic ice storms, have helped reinforce the importance and the sense of urgency that we get to do this every day for the communities that we all live in, right? So that's what drives me from a sense of urgency perspective.
Absolutely. So you mentioned ice storms being sort of the big one. How is there sort of a weather event that pops up that you feel your heartbeat kind of start to go up? Is that generally ice storms, or how do you see the difference if you've got, say, a big thunderstorm complex or the different weather variables? Is ice sort of the big one that's on your mind always?
Um, I'll answer the question like this. Our job is to both prepare the public for weather risk from an outage perspective or a wire down perspective, and then focus on getting the lights back on. And so it's in that order, right? It's about keeping the public safe. And so for me, being able to do that sooner rather than later helps the public prepare and stay away from things like down wires. And then in terms of restoration, the urgency is to reduce the public risk. So bad things happen when people lose power. And so that's what drives us, but it's really in that order, I would say.
Yeah. Is there, if you're talking to family and friends about your job, is there an aspect of it that surprises them about what you get involved with? And I'm thinking of, how to deploy resources after a storm, or what all is involved in sort of the response when you get one of these major issues.
Yeah, great question. I think the utility industry over the years has had a little bit of a PR problem, right? We used to be thought of as slow to change, antiquated, right? Those were things I heard when I joined the company in 2010. And so I can't speak for every other utility out there, but I'm really excited about some of the advances we've made, both in the application of digital tools, and then enabling that to drive better decisions so we get the lights back on faster. And so I find that friends and family are surprised to hear how well the industry has progressed, and specifically how well Consumers Energy is doing in that space, just really since the COVID pandemic of 2020. It's been a transformational shift at Consumers Energy, and I know other utilities are on a similar journey.
Absolutely. You mentioned the digital aspect of what you do, which I find so impressive and fascinating. There's the famous, or the big buzzword out there is AI right now. I'm curious where you're seeing AI impact either your work on a day-to-day, kind of an overall perspective, and how you're seeing it across the industry. Is it something people are looking at favorably, people are scared of? How are you sort of viewing AI in your world?
Yeah, great question. So for us, AI is like every other digital tool, right? It has its application, and when you apply it correctly, you can get better outcomes, better results for our customers. And so we've recently made significant advances in our meteorology internally, our modeling, and our ability to predict the impact to our system and therefore the risk to our customers. So one of the things that we're really excited about is if you get better at predicting the number of outages and the number of wire downs, you can be much more precise with where you pre-position your crews to respond, right? Ultimately, we want to get to the point where there aren't outages and there aren't down wires, but that's a long-term journey. So as we go forward, we are going to be spending some of our first dollars in electric distribution on AI and helping us pre-position crews based off of our outage prediction and our outage forecasting. And so I'm really excited to be moving forward with that. Mobilizing crews faster or pre-positioning them better to begin with really helps reduce the risk to our customers, and it gets the lights back on. So public safety and customer experience are both potentially better without us needing to add more people to our business, which costs our customers more, right? So I'm excited about that.
Absolutely. It's exciting, and I appreciate people that have a nervousness about what power AI can have and how it changes our world. But you described a couple of really cool scenarios where it's going to benefit the end customer so much. One interesting weather variable that I've personally witnessed a change in is wildfire. And so you're located in Michigan. Most people think of wildfires, you immediately think of California or Oregon, the West Coast, west of the Rocky Mountains. How have you seen wildfire, no pun intended, spread as a concern to utilities further east, and how does consumers think about wildfire?
Great question. So the catastrophic wildfire a couple of years ago in Hawaii really caught our attention, our senior leadership's attention. We were already monitoring some of what was going on the West Coast, of course, like you mentioned, but seeing the catastrophic loss of life and the cost was just eye-opening. And so really excited about how seriously we took it. I will say my predecessor's title was focused on restoration management. And when I moved into this role, it was a deliberate change to emergency response to really signal that we're going to treat all of those potential emergencies that impact the electrical grid and our customers really seriously. And so what that means is we now, as of October, we will have a standard policy around public safety power shutoff in the event of a wildfire. Going back to 2024, we've had monitoring in place. I mentioned some of the advances in meteorology internally. That's part of that expansion isn't just focused on storm restoration and outages, but is focused on monitoring those red flag warnings that we get. And a lot of people don't know this. Prior to that catastrophic fire in Hawaii, Michigan had two of the biggest wildfires in the history of the country. And so we have in the northern lower peninsula, which is a big part of Consumers Energy's service territory, there are a lot of forests and we'll say fire risk, a lot of campers, a lot of campfires, right? The things that people love about Michigan and the outdoors really present some fire challenges. And so we're focused on being ready internally. And in the event that something like that does happen, we're prepared to act. We've done a recent tabletop exercise to simulate a worst case scenario. So while we don't want that threat to ever hit us, we're prepared. We want the public to know that we're prepared. We're ready to do our part in the event that the worst case scenario does happen.
Yeah, it's interesting, with DTN being on kind of the weather and climate side of things, I often get talked about, you mentioned ice storm were two of the biggest things. And when you think regionally or you think of an area, you tend to apply a type of weather that's most common, but sometimes it's that one that you don't think about. I always use the 1 inch of snow in Atlanta is catastrophic, right? In a big deal. And you don't think of wildfire as, you don't intuitively just think of Michigan, but as you said, there's been a couple big ones. There could be big ones. It's really great to hear consumers thinking that way, and that's a big part of your role as well. Really cool insights. We like to wrap up DTNsights with what we call heat burst, which is where we talk about some fun things to round up. So I have a few well-placed sources that tell me you are a huge baseball fan. Is that correct?
Oh boy. Yes, I will confirm that. That is a true statement.
Okay, so who's your team first and foremost?
So I work in Jackson, grew up in Metro Detroit, live in Ann Arbor. I feel like I would take some serious heat if I didn't say the Detroit Tigers, despite what's been happening the last few weeks. Outside of that, I had two favorite teams growing up, and really for the same reason. One was the Oakland A's, kind of the Moneyball, if you remember that book and the movie. And after that, the Tampa Bay Rays. And I'll just tell you the reason why. They're both focused on optimizing the resources that they have. So how that applies to our work, Consumers Energy's customers can't afford to spend like the New York Yankees, right? And so with that said, we can still win and spend what we can afford. And that's appealed to me since I was a teenager growing up playing baseball.
That's awesome. As a Kansas City Royals fan, I can tell you, I understand what you're talking about. And 2015, 2016 was a very fun time but couldn't keep the team around, right? It's hard to keep that great roster and people want to go get paid. It makes sense. So I also heard that you're trying to get yourself to every baseball stadium around the country. How many have you made it to so far?
20. Two new ones this year. Right before the 4th of July, I made it to Philadelphia, and then in April, I made it to Arizona. So I'm at 20, 10 more to go.
Yeah, are you ranking these? Like, do you have a favorite so far?
I'd say my favorite so far is in San Francisco. It's right on the bay. It's a really cool setup walking up. And then underrated, Pittsburgh. It's right on the river. You cross the Clemente Bridge as you walk in. A lot of good food outside the stadium. So those are my two favorites aside from Comerica Park and actually growing up Tiger Stadium.
Sure.
Those I'm partial to those, of course.
Well, and there's a nostalgia factor. That's the beauty of baseball, is the nostalgia and the fun. Okay, so if you put yourself in Moneyball and you take Brad Pitt's character and he's talking about Eric the baseball player, what's the scouting report on your baseball career?
So I was a catcher, and I also was big on working the count before I knew about on base percentage. So I think in that question, I would have been an undervalued resource and probably would have ended up on those Moneyball A's. I didn't have the physical skill, but I knew what I was trying to achieve out there.
Yeah, well, when people ask about mine, I say one tool player, and it was sitting on the bench. Pretty good at that. So
those that can't do, coach, right?
That's exactly right. I'm not very good at that either. Well, Eric, awesome. You've been a good sport with the baseball questions, but really appreciate your insights and appreciate you as a customer of DTN. We know how serious you guys take your role and care for your customer, and you're putting in some amazing programs. And so I just want to congratulate you on that, and just really appreciate you joining us today on DTNsights.
Yeah, thanks, Renny. We really appreciate the partnership with DTN as well, and thanks for having me.